Hi, I'm the Reverend Russell, and this is the Hardest Question video blog. This is week ordinary 28, year C, and we have the illustrious Tony Jones as our guest blogger today, known throughout the blogosphere as a gadfly, curmudgeon, and roustabout theologian. And also a personal friend of mine. But he is writing this week on the Old Testament text, the Jeremiah text, and the Luke text. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Luke text, which is, it's interesting. We're in an ordinary time. In an ordinary time, we get all the crazy, baffling stuff from the text. So if you're watching this, you probably know the text for this week. Jesus is on his way from, it says he's traveling between Galilee and Samaria. That's a tip right there, Samaria, I think. And 10 lepers approach him, number 10, I don't know why. But 10 lepers approach him, and they shout out, as they're supposed to by law, if they are Jewish. The Jewish law tells them they have to hold back. I'm sure other peoples have the same restriction. They shout out from a distance, "Jesus, have mercy on us," which is a great thing to shout out all the time. Jesus, have mercy on us. And Jesus just says to them, "Turn, go present yourself to the priests." And so apparently they do. They turn, and as they're walking away, they are healed. Well, one of them, realizing he's healed, turns back around and falls on his face and thanks Jesus. And the text points out that he's a Samaritan. So this is an interesting question. Why did Jesus tell a Samaritan to go to the temple, show himself to the priests? Why was the Samaritan hanging out with all these other 9 lepers? I don't know. Does leprosy or the fact that you're an outcast or an untouchable supersede your racial boundaries or overcome years and years of hostility? I guess if you're super loser, you all hang out together. But anyway, he gets down on his knees and he thanks God and he thanks Jesus, and Jesus says, "Hey, were not 9 others healed? Where are they? How come you come and give thanks to me?" And he says, "Go, your faith has made you well." You know, we've heard Jesus say things like that before. Your faith has made you well. But Tony's question here, and I mean, right away, I think it's a pretty good question. This is my brother John. He's with me every week, and he has the hardest question this week from Tony Jones.
Okay, here we go. Why does Jesus keep his distance from the lepers and heal them as they're walking away?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Yeah, because Tony writes that Jesus, like, his main way of healing people is by touching them, right? The healing touch. He lets, the hemorrhaging woman touch him, and she's healed. He spits in the mud and rubs it on their faces.
Right, so it's all about touch. The touch is missing here. Like, what he waited until they walked away. It's almost like he faked them out.
He faked them out, like he's like shooting someone in the back, healing them from behind.
Right, that's the sense I get. Yeah. The normal response is gone. All that warmth, all that touching is gone. This is obvious. Why does he wait until they're walking away?
And as Tony points out, he's like, we like to think of Jesus as a hugger, right? We like to think that the touch, is going to, he's a toucher.
Like the minister out in the narthex of
exactly. And then he points out Mother Teresa, like her whole bit. Well, it was more than a bit. But her whole thing was to touch the untouchable.
Her life's ministry, yeah.
She touched the lepers. She goes further than Jesus did. Jesus won't touch the lepers. Is it because he doesn't want to get leprosy? Is it because he doesn't want to cross those kind of cultural boundaries? It's a violation of the law to touch a leper because you become unclean. But Jesus doesn't seem to care about that in any other instance. Why does he do it with these lepers?
Yeah. And it was significant enough to be in the text, so it's something you'd ask about. I mean,
absolutely.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have been written there. It would have just been assumed that he was doing his usual behavior, which.
Right. No, but this is significant. It's included there. So it's purposeful, obviously. It must be. But it's a good question. Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? But do you know really what gets me more in this text? Tony, that's a good question. To me, though, the hardest question in this text has to do with the issue of the Samaritan and gratitude and faith. So somehow this Samaritan, not like, and we see this in Luke a lot actually, it's like the centurion who's healed, that Jesus says, if all of Israel had faith like his, you know, and so it's the Samaritan who Jesus says, your faith has made you well. But what's weird about this is like, he's already healed. So it's not like that act of gratitude is what caused Jesus to realize he had faith, and then that faith healed him. It's presumably the other 9 people, what are they? What healed them? Did their faith make them well? Or did their lack of gratitude make them well? Or what made them well? Did their faith make them well too? Would Jesus have said that to them if they came back? So why does Jesus say after the fact, after the healing, your faith has made you well? Is our faith maybe something that's given to us by Jesus before we even realize it? And only in our realization that we've been given this gift of faith or whatever, or healing, only in our gratitude is our own faith become apparent to us?
So it sounds like this gives you a chance to ask more pertinent questions. This question opens it up for other questions.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the best sort of passage where
Absolutely.
There's more questions than answers.
And I would think if I was preaching this, I would want to preach that question. I would want to preach that question about where does your faith come from? And how do you realize your own faith? Maybe is it in your gratitude and it's given to you? Maybe your faith is given to you. It's nothing that we manufacture, because how would we ever manufacture a faith that would actually heal us? It's always got to be given to us. So, I'm the Reverend Russell with my brother John, and this is the hardest question.